A little girl is burning with fever. Her breathing is fast. Her skin is hot enough to make her mother pull her hand away. There is no doctor to call. No pharmacy around the corner. No bottle of antibiotics waiting in the medicine cabinet. There isn't even a word for bacteria. The only thing standing between this child and death is an old woman carrying a bundle of leaves she has gathered over decades of watching the forest. She kneels beside the child. She crushes the leaves with a stone. She mixes them with water. Then she waits. If she chose the wrong plant, the child dies. If she remembered correctly, the child might live. For hundreds of thousands of years, this wasn't an extraordinary moment. It was simply life. Long before hospitals, long before surgery, long before microscopes revealed the invisible world of germs, human beings somehow managed to survive. They hunted dangerous animals. They recovered from terrible injuries. They raised children. They lived long enough to build villages, cities, kingdoms, and eventually the modern world. Which raises an uncomfortable question. How? How did our ancestors survive without medicine? The answer is far stranger than most people imagine. Because ancient humans were never truly without medicine. They simply understood medicine in a completely different way. Today, we often think of medicine as something that comes from outside the body. A pill, en injection, a surgeon, a machine. But for most of human history, medicine began somewhere else. It began with observation. Imagine spending your entire life surrounded by nature. Every meal comes from plants or animals. Every injury happens outdoors. Every mistake can be fatal. When survival depends on paying attention, you become one of the greatest observers the world has ever seen. You notice which berries make someone violently sick. You notice which roots calm stomach pain. You notice which leaves reduce swelling after a bee sting. You notice that wounds washed in one stream heal better than wounds washed in another. None of this required chemistry. It required memory. Generation after generation, families accumulated thousands of tiny observations. A grandmother remembered which bark eased fever. A hunter remembered which moss stopped bleeding. A mother remembered which flower soothed a child's cough. No textbooks existed. No universities. Yet an enormous medical library lived inside human memory. Knowledge wasn't printed. It was spoken, repeated, protected, passed from one generation to the next, because forgetting could cost a life. This is the first mistake we make when thinking about ancient people. We assume they were ignorant. In reality, they were experts. Not experts in laboratories, experts in survival. Their classroom was the natural world. Their examinations happened every single day. And failure usually wasn't followed by a bad grade. It was followed by death. That creates a remarkably effective learning environment. Archaeology has given us incredible evidence that this wasn't simply guesswork. One of the most famous discoveries comes from Shanidar Cave in northern Iraq. There, researchers uncovered the burial of a Neanderthal who lived roughly 60,000 years ago. Around the skeleton were unusually large amounts of pollen from several different flowering plants. At first, scientists wondered whether the wind had carried the flowers into the cave, but the concentration was simply too great. Someone had intentionally placed those plants beside the body. Why? The answer became even more fascinating when botanists identified the species. Several of them contain compounds that modern medicine recognizes for their medicinal properties. Some reduce inflammation. Some relieve pain. Others help fight infection. Think about what that means. Neanderthals may have been selecting medicinal plants tens of thousands of years before agriculture even existed. Long before written language. Long before civilization. That discovery changed how many researchers viewed prehistoric medicine. Ancient healing wasn't built on luck. It was built on relentless experimentation. Modern science often celebrates controlled clinical trials. Ancient humans conducted a different kind of experiment. Every generation inherited thousands of observations from the one before. Some ideas disappeared because they failed. Others survived because they worked. Slowly, almost invisibly, humanity built one of the longest-running medical experiments in history. As modern humans spread across Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, and eventually the Americas, something remarkable happened. Entirely different cultures discovered many of the same natural medicines independently. Take willow bark. Ancient Egyptians used it. The Greeks used it. Traditional Chinese healers used it. Indigenous peoples across North America used it. These civilizations had almost no contact with one another, yet they all reached the same conclusion. Chewing willow bark reduced pain and fever. Thousands of years later, scientists discovered why. Willow bark contains salicin. Your body converts salicin into salicylic acid, the chemical foundation that eventually led to aspirin. The medicine wasn't invented in a laboratory. The laboratory simply explained what human beings had already discovered. The same story repeats again and again. Garlic. For thousands of years, ancient Egyptians valued it as protection against illness. Today we know garlic contains compounds with genuine antimicrobial activity. Turmeric became central to Ayurvedic medicine in India. Modern research continues investigating curcumin, one of its active ingredients, for its anti-inflammatory effects. Across North America, many indigenous communities relied on echinacea to support recovery from illness. Centuries later, scientists began studying many of the same plants with modern methods. Not every traditional remedy proved effective. Some failed. Some were dangerous. But enough succeeded that modern pharmacology still draws inspiration from nature today. In fact, a surprising percentage of modern medicines can trace their origins back to compounds first found in plants. Ancient people weren't simply eating random leaves and hoping for miracles. They observed details most people today would never notice. They learned that one plant worked only after being dried. Another became safer after boiling. Some roots lost their power if harvested during the wrong season. Others became more effective when combined together. Without understanding molecules, they still understood patterns. Observation became science long before science had a name. But perhaps nothing tested ancient medicine more brutally than wounds. Imagine hunting a mammoth with sharpened stone spears. Imagine slipping while climbing rocks. Imagine surviving an attack by a cave lion. Cuts, broken bones, puncture wounds, burns. They were ordinary parts of life. Today, a deep cut usually means antiseptic, stitches, and antibiotics. Ancient people had none of those. Yet many survived injuries that seem almost impossible. How? One answer was sitting inside beehives. Honey. Ancient Egyptian medical texts mention honey again and again as a treatment for wounds. For centuries, people assumed this was little more than superstition. Modern medicine eventually discovered something astonishing. Honey naturally creates an environment where many bacteria struggle to survive. Its high sugar concentration draws water away from microbes. Its acidity slows bacterial growth. Some types even produce small amounts of hydrogen peroxide. Today, specially prepared medical honey is once again used in hospitals around the world. Thousands of years separated ancient healers from modern doctors. Both arrived at remarkably similar conclusions. The forest had been hiding medicine all along, but honey was only the beginning. Ancient healers experimented with almost everything the natural world offered. Certain mineral-rich clays were packed directly onto wounds. Today, scientists know that some of these clays contain naturally occurring antibacterial minerals capable of slowing dangerous infections. Spider webs sound even stranger. Greek physicians, Celtic tribes, and Native American healers all placed clean spider silk over fresh cuts. At first glance, it seems impossible that something so delicate could help. Yet spider silk is remarkably strong, naturally resistant to some microbes, and forms an excellent barrier that helps slow bleeding. Even more astonishing was something few people would willingly try today. Maggots. Yes, tinifly larvae. Many indigenous cultures noticed that badly infected wounds sometimes healed better after maggots appeared naturally. Instead of panicking, they paid attention. The maggots consumed dead tissue while leaving healthy tissue behind. They cleaned wounds far more precisely than human hands ever could. Modern hospitals still use carefully sterilized maggot therapy for certain severe infections that resist antibiotics. Sometimes the oldest medical discoveries survive because they were right all along. Ancient medicine wasn't magic. It was observation refined by necessity. Perhaps nowhere is that more obvious than surgery. Imagine discovering a human skull thousands of years old with a perfectly round hole cut into it. Your first assumption would probably be murder, but archaeologists noticed something extraordinary. The edges of the hole had healed. The patient survived. This procedure is known today as trepanation. It dates back more than 9,000 years. No electricity, no anesthesia, no stainless steel instruments, only stone tools, steady hands, and astonishing courage. Why perform such a dangerous operation? Researchers believe it may have relieved pressure after head injuries, treated skull fractures, or attempted to ease seizures and severe headaches. We may never know every reason. But one fact remains undeniable. People survived. Some skulls even show multiple healed openings, suggesting that the same individual underwent the procedure more than once. Even more remarkable are ancient amputations. Several prehistoric skeletons reveal limbs removed with surprisingly clean healing afterward. That tells us something important. Surgery alone wasn't enough. Someone had to clean the wound. Someone had to feed the patient. Someone had to protect them for weeks while they recovered. Medicine was never just about knowledge. It depended on community. Healing was a group effort, and perhaps that was humanity's greatest medical invention. Modern hospitals rely on trained professionals. Ancient villages relied on each other. Parents cared for injured children. Hunters carried wounded companions home. Elders shared decades of experience with younger generations. Without cooperation, medicine could never have developed. But there was another healer, quietly working inside every ancient human: the immune system. Long before antibiotics existed, evolution had been running its own laboratory. For millions of years, every generation encountered countless viruses, bacteria, and parasites. Those who survived passed stronger immune defenses to their children. The process was painfully slow. It demanded unimaginable suffering, yet it shaped one of the most sophisticated biological systems on Earth. Ancient humans also lived in a microbial world, almost impossible for modern people to imagine. Their hands touched soil every day. Their food came directly from nature. Children played in dirt instead of sanitized playgrounds. Their bodies encountered an astonishing diversity of microorganisms from birth. Today, scientists increasingly recognize the importance of the gut microbiome. Trillions of bacteria living inside our digestive system help regulate immunity, metabolism, and even mental health. Modern hunter-gatherer communities still possess gut microbiomes far more diverse than those found in industrialized societies. Their diets contain hundreds of wild plants, naturally fermented foods, roots, fruits, seeds, insects, and game animals. Microbial diversity flourishes. Ancient humans almost certainly enjoyed similar advantages. This doesn't mean modern hygiene is a mistake. Clean drinking water, vaccines, and antibiotics have saved hundreds of millions of lives. But it reminds us that our relationship with microbes is more complicated than simply good versus bad. Some bacteria threaten life. Others help sustain it. Our ancestors unknowingly lived alongside both. Then there is one form of medicine that surprises many people because it leaves no fossils: hope. Imagine becoming desperately ill 50,000 years ago. The healer enters your shelter. Family members gather around. Someone begins chanting. Medicinal herbs burn slowly in the fire. The entire community believes recovery is possible. Modern science calls part of this the placebo effect. When patients believe treatment will help, measurable biological changes often occur. Stress hormones decrease. Pain les sang. Recovery sometimes improves. Ancient healers understood none of the neuroscience. Yet they understood something equally important. Confidence matters. Care matters. Human connection matters. Healing has never been purely physical. It has always involved the mind. Of course, ancient medicine had limits. Many illnesses remained unstoppable. Appendicitis, severe bacterial infections, complicated childbirth, aggressive pneumonia. These conditions killed countless people. Infant mortality was heartbreaking. Many children never reached adulthood. Life expectancy appears low in archaeological records, largely because so many died young. But those who survived childhood often lived into their 60s or even 70s. Old age existed. It simply wasn't guaranteed. This is where we must avoid romanticizing the past. Ancient medicine accomplished extraordinary things. Modern medicine accomplishes miracles. The fact that a routine antibiotic can save someone from an infection that would have been fatal only 2 centuries ago should never stop feeling astonishing. Still, ancient civilizations continued expanding medical knowledge. Egyptian physicians recorded hundreds of treatments on papyrus scrolls. Chinese healers developed sophisticated herbal traditions. Indian physicians described surgical techniques centuries before Europe rediscovered them. Greek thinkers argued that disease followed natural causes instead of angry gods. Mesopotamian clay tablets listed symptoms beside recommended treatments in ways that look surprisingly familiar today. Different cultures, different languages, one shared goal: keep people alive. And perhaps that's the most beautiful lesson hidden inside this story. Ancient humans survived without modern medicine because they were never truly helpless. They watched, they experimented, they remembered. Most importantly, they cared for one another. Every useful plant, every healed wound, every successful operation, every lesson passed from an elder to a child became another page in humanity's first medical textbook. No author ever signed it. Every generation wrote another chapter. Today, we possess technologies our ancestors would have considered supernatural: MRI scanners, organ transplants, genetic medicina, robotic surgery. Yet the foundations of health remain surprisingly familiar. Eat nourishing food, sleep well, move your body, spend time outdoors. Stay connected to people who care about you. Support your immune system. Reduce unnecessary stress. Those recommendations sound remarkably similar to the wisdom shared beside ancient campfires thousands of years ago. The tools changed. The human body never did. If this story changed the way you see our ancestors, we'd love to have you join us for the next journey. Subscribe to Human Stories, because the past still has countless secrets waiting to be uncovered, and every one of them helps us better understand ourselves. Your ancestors faced disease without pharmacies, injury without hospitals, and uncertainty without science. They survived through observation, resilience, cooperation, and an extraordinary willingness to learn from the world around them. You are living proof that, more often than not, their knowledge was enough. Thank you for spending part of your day with Human Stories. Until next time, thank you for watching.